So what's good, everybody, and how you doing today? And hopefully my mic isn't too loud. And this is Crazy Jay, and I just want to welcome you to Crazy Jay's World. So how's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing great. I'm shooting this again on my phone. I'm gonna try to start using my computer again, but I want to do another one on the phone. It didn't come out too bad on the phone. I got the phone, I think, in a good angle. So we're going to start with the just for today, like I said, and then we'll get into, I'll talk a little bit and we'll get into it. All right. So just for today, this is a good one. Just for today is good. It's very good. Just for today, living the program. Tell yourself, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery. That's right. Living and enjoying life without the use of drugs and alcohol. Just for today, I will have faith in someone in NAAA who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. That's right. Just for today, through NA and AA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and who have found a new way of life. So as long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear. That's good. Just for today, man. I'll tell you, if you follow those, man, it helps you get through today. Just for today is an awesome thing. I love the just for today thing. It really helps me throughout my day in my recovery, and it's a good thing to follow because you're only sober just for today. You're not sober yesterday or tomorrow. You're sober just for today. Oh, and yeah, today I have 9 years and 6 months sober. Now, if I was using my computer, I would do the clapping thing, but I'm using my phone. It looks pretty good. My camera on my phone's great. So, yeah, I'm hoping that, the glitching will stop. I don't know why it's happening. It's upsetting me, So I want to know how everybody's doing out there. Yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, and share my content. That's how I get more viewers. That's how I get more subscribers. That's how I get my word of mouth out to people out there who, might need to hear me. They might need to hear the message that I'm sharing. I'm doing good. I had a good day today. I took my son to the dermatologist. My 16-year-old. He wanted to, he had some stuff around his nose he wanted to get looked at. So we went. Everything's good. It's a common thing that 8 out of every 10 people get. I didn't know that. I'm not a dermatologist, so I don't know the stuff about skin. I didn't go to school for it. I don't want to be a dermatologist. You know what I mean? But no, I try to do the best I can with my kids. See, when you get sober, man, a lot of good things start happening. I get to be a father now to my kids. I wasn't the best father, and I might not be the best father now. I don't know how great of a father I am. I'm not the best father in the world. I'm just trying to be the best dad I can be now. When we're using, it's tough to be a parent because we're so wrapped up in our addiction that we don't really pay attention to the things we need to, if that makes sense to people out there listening. If anybody out there listening who is a parent and you're struggling with, addiction, you're missing time with those kids because you're not yourself. You're wrapped up in a whole world of something else, and you're going to miss a lot of time that you can't get back. Like me, when I was using, I lost a lot of time with my kids, and I can't ever get it back. It's never going to come back because it's gone. It's gone for good, and is what it is. But all I could do is just make things now. I can only be here now. And I have to deal with the things that I did in my past, and my kids have to deal with it. And my kids are messed up because of me and their mom. They're still going through it now. My son was talking to me earlier, my oldest, about some things. And, I feel horrible to know that I wasn't there for them when I needed to be. But I'm there now. And it's been, the last couple of years have been tough. When I moved back to New Jersey, I never expected to get custody of my kids. My plan when I moved back to New Jersey was I rented a room from my friend. And I was going to eventually save up money and get my own place. I was going to just get like a 1-bedroom, and because I didn't want to live with my friend forever. I was getting the COVID money because, like I said, my job, I was working at Denny's upstate New York, and it closed because of COVID. And then I wound up getting money because of COVID, like a lot of people were getting. So when I came back, I was getting the money every week, but I started spending a little too much on the kids. I was trying to make up time that I lost with them by buying them things. And that's not an answer. You don't do that. That's not the best way to be a parent, because you're not being a parent. You're just buying them stuff. But it was stuff they needed because my ex-wife was using. I didn't even know she was using when I moved back. I don't think she covered it pretty good. So, and then she kept asking me for money, and like an idiot, I was giving her money and I was being stupid. It wasn't because I wanted to be with her or anything. I just, I don't know why I was doing it, because I was afraid maybe she wouldn't let me see my kids. So I just thought as long as I gave her and I didn't always give her money, but I gave it to her majority of the time, and I shouldn't have did that. But so basically, they were living with their mom, and the child thing to people, typhus or whatever it's called, Child Protective Services, they started getting called on her, and they started coming out, and they started noticing what was going on. So, and they knew I was back, and they knew I was sober. So eventually they decided that they needed to take my kids from their mom. And since I was here and I was doing the right thing, they wanted me to take the kids. And absolutely, I was taking my kids. They're my kids, because if I didn't, they would have went in a foster home. I'm not having my kids in a foster home. My daughter was already in a foster home. My two boys weren't, but my daughter wound up going. That's another story for another day. But I wasn't having that happen. So I took them. And the thing was, my daughter was going to come live with me because my friend had an extra room that I could use for her. I had to pay a little more money, which was fine, to live there. And then my son Christopher started coming over and just sleeping over. And then he wound up just staying with me because him and my son Braden went to our friend's house because she had a little more room. So this way, at least the kids were safe, and then I could see them until I could get a place for us. And then he started staying with us. So I started sharing my bedroom with my oldest son. And my bedroom was nice, and it was a long room, but it was a thin room. So it wasn't a big room, but it was big enough. And then the person that my youngest son was staying with now, Braden, he wound up coming and getting sent to my house. She didn't want to have him anymore. I don't talk to that lady anymore, but she didn't want to, keep him there anymore. So now me and my two sons are sharing my bedroom. And we lived like this for over a year at my friend's house. I wound up getting help from a place called KFT, Keeping Families Together. I still have them today. They are fabulous. They have helped me so much in the last couple of years, and they helped me get on housing, and I got the house that I'm in now, but I'm having problems paying my rent with it. So I might lose my house, but I'm not looking at it as a negative. I got to be positive about this stuff, but my daughter's going to be 19 in September. My oldest Christopher is 20. He'll be 21 in April. And then my youngest son Braden is going to be 17 in February. His birthday is 9 days after mine. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not coming on here to make people feel sorry for me, because that's not what this is about. I'm just trying to give you a little insight. But when I moved back, man, it was just to be with the kids. If my kids weren't in New Jersey, I wouldn't even move back to New Jersey. They're the only reason I even came back here. I would have never came back. I didn't want to come back to Jersey, but I wanted to be with my kids so much because I love my kids. I love my kids to death. I would die for my kids. I would take a bullet. I would jump in front of a car for my kids. Even now, I don't care. They're my kids. I would die for them. And when I heard what was going on, I had to take them, and I feel like that was my higher power at work, because I feel like them living with me made us closer. I was able to make up more time with them than I did when I was just going back and forth to their moms to see them, because it was hard going to their moms. I didn't want to be there because of her and her boyfriend. So it was tough when I went there to see my kids. I feel like I couldn't be the dad I wanted to be to them because I'm in her house with him, her boyfriend at the time. I get along with him. He's not with her anymore now. We don't even know where she is. But I get along with her ex-boyfriend. They were together for years, but he's not a bad guy. Me and him had our problems, but that's how it goes, when you start dating someone's ex and we're still married, that you're going to have problems. You know what I mean? But I have my kids, and I'm so happy to have them, and I would never change anything. So today I wanted to talk about triggers and cravings. Triggers and cravings. So triggers are anything that make you want to use. So triggers happen out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So like people, placing things, for instance, that can make you have a trigger. You could, you can go somewhere where you've been, and it triggers you into thinking, about using. People you hang around with can definitely trigger you and make you want to use. And things, man, anything like a toy, a car can make you, if you're sitting in a car you're used to using, it could trigger you. Like if you're in recovery and you get in someone's car that used to get in and get high or buy drugs, from it, that could be a big trigger because you're in the vicinity of the place where you were getting drugs or you were using. So it makes you think about it. Like for instance, I wrote some things down, like that. Like for instance, bathrooms. I want to talk a little about this. So even now to me, I go in a bathroom and I still think about using, because a lot of us use in bathrooms. I don't know if people out there don't realize that. I mean, I've done a lot of using in bathrooms. Bathrooms is a big using thing. I mean, look at movies when they show movies and they're, you're in the club and everybody's hanging out, and then all of a sudden they go to a scene where they're sniffing coke in the bathroom. You see what I'm saying? Bathrooms can be one of the biggest triggers for an addict. And I know addicts out there, if they're listening to this, they know that for a fact. I mean, I've known people that went in the bathroom and shot up in the bathroom, and then they passed out in the bathroom because they nodded out in the bathroom, and then you're locked in the bathroom. I mean, I've used so many times in the bathroom. I would use in my bathroom wherever I was living. I didn't do it here because I don't use it anymore, but I'm just saying bathrooms, man, are very big, can be a very big trigger. You get sober, you got some time under your belt, and then you go in the bathroom. Especially if it's the bathroom, like at, say, a house or your house where you use, you can get a trigger. It could trigger you because you're like, man, I used to use it here. I remember when I first got sober, not this time, it was the last time. I mean, I started using it obviously because I got sober this time, but the first time I went in the bathroom that I used in, man, I thought about that. I was like, wow, I used in here. Like, I remember being here smoking crack or sniffing coke or sniffing opiates. It brought a lot of trigger memories back. So, like, bathrooms, man, are big time triggers. Any bathroom. You don't even have to use in that bathroom. It's just a bathroom is a trigger. It's just, it triggers you to make you think about using. There's also holidays. Holidays can be a big trigger for, especially like drinking holidays. Like, this is big for alcoholics. Like, I remember when I first got sober in February, and then I was only a couple months sober, and then it came to actually March, the first month, St. Patrick's Day. I used to drink all the time on St. Patrick's Day because I'm Irish. I would get hammered on St. Patrick's Day. My first St. Patrick's Day, I remember it was St. Patrick's Day, and I was thinking, like, man, I'm not going to drink that. Like, this is going to be the first St. Patrick's Day I don't drink, and I don't even remember how long, because, I mean, for the last 10, 15 St. Patrick's Day years, I used to drink on St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, and I remember I did a lot of reading that day, that St. Patrick's Day. I got my my AA book actually out. Not the NA book that day. It was the AA book because I used to drink a lot. I didn't really do drugs on St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day is a drinking day. So I remember getting my AA book out, and I sat there and I read some stories from people who wrote stories. I tried to keep my mind as occupied as I could because it was a trigger. St. Patrick's Day, I'm almost a month sober. Because you got to think, I got sober February 19th, so March 17th, it's almost a month. That was a big trigger already. Man, I remember thinking when St. Patrick's Day was coming up, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, I don't know exactly how I was thinking at that time because it's so many years ago. I mean, now it's like St. Patrick's Day. I appreciate the holiday, and I don't even think about drinking on it now. Like, it's not really a thought. But at the time, man, that first month, man, I got sober right around a holiday that was coming up. That's a big drinking holiday, man. It was tough. Because I'm not going to lie, the first month I wanted to drink. I stopped doing pills. I got on Suboxone, but I still wanted to drink. So that took a lot for me to not drink on that St. Patrick's Day. That's why I did a lot of reading out of the book. I wasn't going to meetings yet. I didn't start going to meetings until the late April, early May. So, that first St. Patrick's Day was a big trigger, and I didn't use, thank God. I wrote down, like, let's see, holidays. Like, for instance, New Year's Eve. My mom's birthday's New Year's Eve, too. And New Year's Eve's a big drinking holiday. By New Year's Eve, I was a little bit stronger because I had almost a year. I had almost 12 months sober. I almost had a year on. So New Year's Eve, my first New Year's Eve was actually easier than St. Patrick's Day, obviously. The 4th of July, there you go. The 4th of July was in the middle. So yeah, St. Patrick's Day was my drinking, and I didn't drink. And then we got up to, 4th of July, which I used to drink all the time too, and have blasts, watching fireworks, going to barbecues. So that was another one that. So let's see, March. So February to March is 1 month. April's 2, May's 3, June's 4, July. So I was 5 months, almost 5 months, or I was over 5 months, yeah, sober by the time 4th of July came. But I was still struggling my first 7 months. So I was still struggling a little bit by then. I thought about drinking. That was a trigger. Like, triggers come out of nowhere. They kind of show up, and you're not expecting them because that's why it's called a trigger. It matters on what you do about it. If you get a trigger and you act upon it, then, it's game over because you acted upon that trigger. Movies and shows can trigger you. There might be a drug scene in the movie, or they're at a bar or a club and you start thinking about drinking, because it's a trigger going off in your brain telling you, hey, look what they're doing. I remember when I was doing that, like the Super Bowl. Super Bowl can be a big trigger for people who drink. I don't know about, addicts with the Super Bowl. When I used to watch Super Bowl, a lot of times I would drink. I drank a lot of Super Bowls. Yeah, Super Bowls were a big drinking thing for me too. Now I love watching Super Bowl sober. Like, I enjoy watching the Super Bowl without alcohol because there's Super Bowls I don't remember a lot of it because I would get so drunk at watching the Super Bowl I'd black out. So I don't now I actually remember what happens in the games, and I enjoy them so much more. Like, I honestly think I enjoy sports more sober than I did when I was drinking. There was times when I would drink and watch, like championship games, and it wasn't the same as watching it now sober. My first Super Bowl in sobriety was tough too, because I remember, the Super Bowl was I think it was in February when I got sober. I don't remember, either end of January or February, but I was only very early in sobriety. So I was like, oh man, I drink. Like it was a trigger. Like I had a lot of triggers early in my sobriety. Like a lot of these things were triggering me because it was testing my sobriety. Triggers to me, are a test of your sobriety. Okay. It's only tempting you because maybe you're not whole in your sobriety. So these things, you let them, like, you eventually, the more time you get, I feel like, in sobriety, the less triggers you're going to have, because you're going to start knowing what you want. Early in sobriety, I feel like, is when you get a lot of the triggers, because you're new to this. You don't know how to live yet without the use of drugs and alcohol. So a lot of things that happen can be a trigger. Like, things trigger you in certain aspects of your recovery. I feel like, maybe, I don't know, I'm just speaking for me, but I know I don't get any triggers anymore. Like, things don't trigger me because I know where I am in my sobriety. I'm very comfortable in my sobriety. So I don't sit here and, I guess, dwell on things anymore. Like, now when I go in the bathroom, the first thing I don't think about is, oh, I want to use. The first thing I think about is I have to use the bathroom. That might be funny, but it's the truth, because when you first get sober, when I first got sober, even in and I didn't use in my grandma's bathroom, okay? When I first got sober upstate New York. But when I went in her bathroom, it triggered me. It was a trigger for a little bit, because every time I went to bed, I would just think about using, because I used to use in bathrooms. That's why I brought up the bathroom thing. The bathroom is a very big trigger. It is. And you can ask a lot of addicts who are in recovery, who are like addicts, what would be a big trigger for you? And a lot of them are going to probably say a bathroom. I feel that way. Like, I don't know per se, but I feel like a lot of people are going to say a bathroom. The bathroom I've heard that. I've asked addicts, and they've said the bathroom. Bathroom could be a very big trigger. People, placing things, man, is a very big trigger. You got to change those people, placing things. I don't want to talk too much about that, because I want to make a podcast episode about people placing things. But people placing things, man, can definitely be a big, big trigger. Where else we got here? Let's see. Music. Music's another one. Yeah. So, like I said before, my first year of sobriety, I didn't listen to music. Music was a big trigger. I used to listen to a lot of music when I was drinking, especially drinking, not using drugs per se, music. But man, when I would get drunk, I used to listen to music all the time. I listened to techno, metal, especially when I was going through some things that I was feeling when I was upset. I see the problem with me when I drank was I would drink and then I would let all my emotions out. So I'd start crying about how I miss my kids, or I miss my ex-wife, or I miss this, or I miss that. Poor me, poor Chris. Drinking made me very emotional, and it made me nasty. I couldn't have what I wanted. It was poor me. So I would get nasty with people when people would say things that I didn't like. I talk a lot as it is. So I have a really nasty mouth on me when I'm drinking. I know a lot of people out there do. I know there's a lot of people out there that have nasty mouths when they drink. Believe me, I've been around a lot of people like that. Yeah, people placing things, man, can definitely be a big trigger. Music is a big trigger. Now it doesn't do that. I tried to listen to music when I first got sober, and it was triggering me. It would start making me think about drinking. Not drugs, but drinking. And I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I can't listen to, how that first year, how hard it was to not listen to any music? Like, if music was on, obviously I would listen to it, but I didn't put music on. I worked on my recovery my first year. My whole first year was working on my recovery. I started dating a girl. I shouldn't have did that. That was a mistake. I started dating her in like July. I'm sorry. Like the middle or end of July, I started dating her. So I had a couple months over. I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. And she was a little bit younger than me, a couple years younger than me. And we hit it off good, because I met her in the outpatient I was going to. She just had a lot of baggage too, and then it was great in the beginning. And then it started kind of burning into not good, because she was going through a lot of stuff and I was going through a lot of stuff, and we were starting to bump heads, and the relationship just wasn't working anymore. And I ended it. I had to, because it just was not the right time for that. I don't recommend getting in a relationship when you're first getting sober. Get a year sober before you even decide to get in a relationship, because you are going to go through so much in your first year. Your first year, that's why I said, is the hardest. It's the hardest to stay sober. A year is hard. And once you get a year, it starts getting easier. It definitely does. But the first year was very hard, and just, I don't know. But the music thing, man, yeah, I just could not listen to music. Like, I would put music on and it would just trigger drinking. It was just like drinking, drinking, drinking. So I was like, I can't do it. So I had to go a whole year. That's crazy for me, without music, because I love listening to music. I just had music on like for the last couple hours. I was writing stuff on my computer. I'm trying to figure out a better system with this podcasting thing. Like, I watched a couple podcasts and I'm just like, man, they're doing it so good, and I'm not. Like, I don't know, man. I want to learn how to do this better. So I'm going to just keep practicing at it. Practice makes perfect. You have to practice. I got to keep doing it. And unfortunately, it's going to be like this for now. But let's see what else could be triggered. Yeah, like movies, shows can trigger us by something happening in it. Something we wear. Or I'm sorry, something we hear can trigger us. Could be a word, could be a sentence. It could be just something that you hear that makes you think about using. That can definitely be a trigger. I don't know if that's a big one. Parties. Let's talk about parties. If you're going to a party, okay, for instance, if you're going to a party where it's going to be drinking, I suggest you take somebody with you who's in sobriety, or you don't go. If you're an alcoholic, it's hard, especially in your first year, to go to any parties that there's alcohol at. I don't recommend going to a bar. You can go to bars eventually in recovery, because I've heard this, as long as you're going there for a reason. And the reason's not drinking. I mean, like, say you're in a pool club thing, or like, you play pool, you're in a pool tournament or whatever, like something with pool. You're going there to play pool. You have a reason to go there. But I suggest if you go to a bar to play pool because you're in a pool league or whatever, you bring somebody who's in sobriety. You don't go alone, especially very early in your recovery, because you could have that could be a trigger right there on its own, and you could start drinking again. And it happens a lot more than you think. So anytime you're going to go to a place where there's alcohol, especially, anytime, don't matter if you have 10 years, you should, I guess it depends. Like me, if I go to, I've been to parties in the last 9 years that have had alcohol, and I didn't want to drink. I went in a bar. I've only been in a bar one time since I've been sober. And my ex-wife and her boyfriend came up to bring my kids up to see me during COVID. And they wanted to go out to the bar, and they didn't know where it was. So I took them there. And unfortunately, I had to hang out with them because they didn't want me to go back. So I stayed and hung out, and I drank soda, and they drank. And I actually had a good time. I was chilling. I actually knew one of the guys that was the bouncer. He wanted to be a friend of mine who was up there, our brother. So I hung out with him. I talked to him, and I just stayed in my own way. I stayed on my own street. And I kept my side of the street clean. I didn't drink. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in a bar. I don't want to be in a bar. I have no reason to go in a bar. There's problems in bars. You might not be drinking. You might run into somebody in a bar right now that's drinking that wants to fight. And now you're getting in a fight with somebody who's drinking because that's just the kind of mood they are in. It happens all the time in bars. There are people go in there to get drunk and they don't know how to handle themselves. And then they want to fight with people. And now you're sober and you don't even realize why you're in the bar, and then you're getting in a fight. That's one of my fears about going in the bar. My fear is going in the bar and then having to deal with someone who wants to fight me because they're drunk and I'm not. And I've done that. I've been drunk and started with people. I don't feel comfortable going in a bar. I don't want to be in a bar. Like, I don't feel like I belong in a bar anymore. Like, that's not my place to go, And I remember someone said, why don't you go to a bar to meet a girl? I don't want to meet a girl because she's obviously in there drinking, which means she's still going to be drinking. And then I'm dating someone who wants to drink. And I don't know if that's good for me. I feel like that a bar could be a trigger. I think it could still be a trigger now. I don't know. I've only been to a bar one time in my sobriety, and I don't plan on going back in. I'm not saying you can go to like a Fridays or something. You could go to a restaurant where there's a bar. It might, like if you feel like that's going to be a trigger, then don't go. But that's what I was saying about the parties. Like if you're going to a party and there's going to be alcohol and you think it's going to trigger you, don't go. Or bring somebody who's in sobriety. They say bring people who are in sobriety with you when you know there's going to be alcohol at a party. Parties can definitely be a big trigger. See what else I got. Addiction, people. All right. So, triggers just happen. They do. It's certain things just trigger you to make you want to drink or drug, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's part of recovery, for instance, your work or your job could trigger you. You could get a trigger from where you work. I know some people who got sober and then they're bartenders. And I'm just like, wow. I remember this person, I asked them, they were a bartender. They got sober and they work in a bar because they're a bartender and they used to drink a lot. So they got sober. And I asked them, I think he had like over a year sober or whatever. And I was like, I ran into him actually one day and I was like, hey man, how you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm doing good. And I was like, oh, you still working at the bar? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. But he's like, I don't want to drink. Like, I was like, it doesn't trigger you in any way to make you want to drink? Like, you don't want to drink? And he's like, no. Like, he was like, I'm at peace with myself. I'm in a good spot. I don't want to do it anymore. But he was a good bartender and he made good money doing it. I remember the one night, my first night dealing with drunks at Denny's, because I moved up to become a manager. This was really made me not want to go to the bar anymore anyway. And I was working a 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift, and it was a Friday. This was my first 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift as a manager. I just became a manager, and drunk people would come in around because the bars closed there at 1 a.m. in New York. Like New Jersey, it's 2 a.m. New York City, I don't know what that is, but New York State, it's 1 a.m. So I remember, I think it was like 20, maybe 25 drunk people came in this night. And man, this one lady, her and her husband owned a bar and they were both drunk. And man, she was messing with me so bad. And I'm sitting there and it just started hurting me. Like it started hurting. I had this shirt on that I guess it was a striped shirt, kind of like Freddy Krueger wears. It wasn't Freddy Krueger's colors or anything, but it was that kind of shirt. She's saying, oh, look, where's Waldo? Like just her, she was saying stuff and being very mean to me. And I remember I went in the back in the kitchen and I kind of almost started crying because I didn't understand. Like it was upsetting me a lot because I had to deal with this person who's drunk at my job. It didn't trigger me. I'm just telling you that it was tough for me as a person in recovery to deal with this because I didn't want to go to the bars to deal with this. And I had to deal with it at my job. So it was tough. You know what I mean? It was very tough, but I got over it, came over it. Her husband apologized. He was really drunk too, but he apologized. She must just be a mean drunk when she's drunk. He wasn't being mean at all. I remember I had to help, so I was serving, and they tipped me. He tipped me $50 because he felt really bad what his wife was saying. But then they started crying, and every time she came in after that, she was the same way to me. Like she would just say nasty stuff to me, and I was like, but I let it go. I was like, she's just drunk, But the first time dealing with drunk people at Denny's was tough. I was only by the time I was a manager, I think I was only like 2 years sober, so I was still early in sobriety. I wasn't, 2 years is early. A year is hard. 2 years is early. 3 years is early. I say when you hit about 5 years is when it starts getting easier because the first 5 years is still hard. I mean, it's being sober is hard. Staying sober is hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to stay sober every day. It's some days are better than others. So yeah, I wanted to talk about cravings. Cravings are a big thing. I still get them once in a while. I get them sometimes when I'm going to bed is a weird time to get them. But yeah, cravings come out of nowhere and not sure why they even happen. Like you could be sitting there hanging out and all of a sudden you just get this craving like to go use. Like I've had them to where I'm sitting there, and people around me have talked about drugs and I've got cravings from that. Like they ask you too, like when you go to NA meetings, I've heard this actually a lot. Like when people go to NA meetings, they get cravings for drugs because you talk about drugs, but that's the point of the NA meeting. Like you go to AA, you talk about drinking, I'm sure people get cravings. I'm sure meetings cause cravings. What I wanted to say about cravings is they go away. A craving doesn't last forever, but if you act on a craving, then it's too late. Like you're going to get cravings in recovery because your body, you're an addict. Cravings are part of recovery. You're going to get them. Like I wrote, cravings come out of nowhere and not sure why they even happen. What can you do when you get a craving? So what can you do when you get a craving? You can shut your brain off, go read your book, your NA or AA book, go call somebody. If you are really having a really strong craving, okay? Because there's different types of craving. There's a little craving and then there's a medium craving and then there's a really strong craving. And the strong cravings are usually the ones that make people relapse. So depending on the craving you're having, depends on the situation and what you can do, I feel like. So if you're having a little craving, try not to think about it. It'll probably go away within a minute or two. It's just a quick craving. If you're having a medium craving, I suggest you go read your book. I suggest you go pray. If you're in some place where you're having a craving, try to get out of that place, go somewhere where it's maybe easier to not have those thoughts, because sometimes when we get triggers in certain places, it causes us to have cravings. If you're in a meeting and the meeting's giving you cravings, leave the meeting. Leave the meeting because it's not working. That meeting is not working at that time. That meeting is making you want to go out and use. And that's not what it's supposed to do. Meeting is supposed to be a safe place for you to feel comfortable and you can go in and you can talk. You shouldn't, if you're getting cravings for meetings, then maybe you're not great in your recovery because, like I said, they pass. When you're having craving, man, reach out. The best thing to do when you're having a craving is reach out to somebody in the program. Call your sponsor. If you have a sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor yet, call someone on that meeting list because usually when you go to a meeting and you're new, they get the pamphlets, the meeting list, and everybody, like if you're a guy, all the guys will write their name and their number on it. Most guys do it. There are some in the meeting that might not because they just don't want to be bothered with it. They're just there for them and that's it. They're not there to give it away. They're just there to receive it and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But most people are going to write their name on that pamphlet. And if you're a woman, you're going to get women in the meeting. There's also only men meetings and only women meetings, but make a phone call on that list. Pick up that list and look who's on there and call out. Reach out to somebody because if you let that craving take you and you can go use again because you got a craving. Cravings always pass. Sometimes they take a while. Sometimes you'll have a craving for hours. It's just a strong craving and you're trying to not think about it, or you go read your books, your literature, you go to a meeting online, or you go to a meeting and you're just still having it. That's a burning desire then, because now you're deciding like it's so strong. You got to talk about it. But whatever you do, don't act on a craving. Cravings are what make us use. So you got to remember, a craving will go away. Cravings, I've had some strong ones, especially early in my recovery, because I feel like once you get more time in the program and you get comfortable with recovery and your recovery, your cravings aren't as bad because you're starting to learn about yourself as a recovery. You're reading the literature, you're going to meetings, you're being active. The best way not to get cravings is stay active in the program. Stay active in the program. Do a lot of volunteer work. Stay busy, because once you start slowing down and you start getting bored and stuff, it's usually when you get the cravings. When you're not you got to stay active in recovery. You can't just sit on the couch all day and just say, all right, I'm sober. Like, if you're not doing things and staying proactive, you are going to get cravings, because your brain, your idle hands are going to make you want to use. So you're going to get cravings, and sometimes they get so bad and we don't realize, and we use because of it. You don't have to use. Remember that your craving will go away. They go away. They're not forever. They're just a craving. When you get a craving for chocolate, I got a craving for chocolate. It's like that, but it's drugs and alcohol you get a craving for. So cravings, yeah. I mean, how often do you get a craving? I mean, anybody out there, if you're in recovery watching this and you get cravings, how often do you get them? Write this in the comments for me, If I didn't say before, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. 4 things. That's all I'm asking. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I want to get better at doing this, so I need comments. I want to know if there's things you guys want to hear about, recovery. I'll read out of the book. I can, I can do reads out of the book. I like doing it. I can read the stories out of the book and talk about it. I could just read the stories and you can listen to it. There's so much in recovery to talk about, I definitely need to do some interviews. But yeah, I mean, cravings come out of nowhere and not sure why they even happen. I feel like cravings also come from you thinking about using. I feel like especially if you're getting a lot of cravings and you want to use, like it's a relapse coming, and relapse happens before the relapse, So like I mean, I've been told, like, if you relapse, man, you've already thought about relapsing and you went with it. You got to be in a good place in your recovery, man, and it's got to stay that way, And if you start feeling like your recovery's slipping, start over. Not saying like go use and start over. That's not what I'm saying. Start over. Sit down and start redoing the steps. Because if your recovery is starting to feel that way, then you need to redo the steps. That's when you need to redo the steps. You're going to redo the steps a bunch of times in your recovery. You might need to maybe do a gratitude list again. The best way to stay sober, man, is make a gratitude list of things you're grateful once a week. Like, sit down once a week, maybe make a day, like, every Monday I'll sit down for 10, 15 minutes and I'll write down what I'm grateful for this week. Or make a gratitude list every day at the end of your day. Sit there before you go to bed and say, what am I grateful for today? Pray. Call somebody in the program. There's so many ways to stay sober that it's not hard, but it's hard. Because it's hard to stay sober, but there's ways to make it so it's not so hard. Also, I wanted to talk about drug dreams. Man, I remember drug dreams can feel as real as anything. They can. I mean, I've had some drug dreams where I woke up thinking I lost my sobriety. I haven't had any drug dreams lately in the last couple of years, but earlier in my sobriety. I remember I swear to God, I had a drug dream. I woke up and I really thought I used. Like, I thought my recovery was over. I think I was like 3 years sober. I had a lot of drug dreams in the beginning of my recovery. I would dream about drugs. Now I don't really so much. I still do, because I think you're going to forever. It's just your subconscious making you, think about it when you're sleeping. I still have them, yes, but just not as much. But yeah, man, I remember, man, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm not sober anymore. Like, I used, like it was so real. It was crazy how real, especially the first one I ever had. And I remember hearing about that. You're going to have drug dreams. They're going to happen. I remember hearing that and I was like, what? Because I don't remember having drug dreams when I was using. I mean, maybe I did. I don't really know if I did or not. I don't remember. A lot of my using days are very blurry. Like, I remember stuff, but I don't, Yeah, I wrote down, I said drug dreams. I said drug dreams can feel as real as anything. I have had some drug dreams that felt so real. I woke up thinking I actually used and lost my sobriety. What to do when you have had a drug dream? All right, I've heard this from a counselor not in AA or NA, in the outpatient. So what do you do when you've had a drug dream? Well, you have to look at what's going on in your life, because drug dreams, depending on them, like, are usually kind of what's going on with you in your recovery. Are Are you good in your recovery? Are you, maybe slacking in some area of your recovery? Because a lot of drug dreams are usually when you're in, like, I guess in a relapse mode, kind of, because you're starting to dream about using again, drinking or drugging, like you're thinking about it and you're sleeping and you're dreaming about it. I've heard that it's basically like a psychologist thing saying that you're thinking about getting high. So you're dreaming about it. So it's like your brain is on that go mode of, I want to use. So you're dreaming about drugs, you're dreaming about using because maybe you actually want to, so I mean, where do they come from? I mean, does it come from when we were using and we're thinking about it, or, drug dreams are weird, especially when you have ones that feel so real and you're like, oh my God, I used, and I mean, the one I had, I couldn't believe it. I was so early in sobriety though. What I've learned this week about me is my patience. I've been thinking about my patience lately, and I've been getting just mad, like for no reason, just getting aggravated a lot lately, and I don't know why. So that's something I have to look, at in my life. Like I wanted to, say, because I have like this segment thing here that I found that will help me like with my podcast, and one of the questions on it was what I learned this week, one lesson for my life. And the lesson for my life this week is that I get angry still. And I don't know why. And I have to work on that. Like I have to work on myself more because obviously there's a defect of character going on, and it's my anger. Like I'm getting mad more at things. Like I'm at work and I'm getting mad because we're busy, and I need to stop that. Like I need to work on myself more, and I need to make a gratitude list. I haven't done one in a while, and I think it's time to sit here and make one about what I'm grateful for, and that's what I'm saying. Like you can start over in recovery. You still have your sobriety. You're not going out and using to start over. What I mean by starting over, and I've heard this in me and everything, start over. Start your steps again. Make an amends list again. Make a gratitude list. Make an ungratitude list. Things that you weren't grateful for. Think about if you've hurt anybody or if anybody's hurt you in the last week or month or year. See if anybody needs to make amends to you, because you may have to make amends in recovery, yes, but there's also people that need to make amends to you because there's people that are going to hurt you who aren't realizing they're doing it. Like people are going to say things to you that bother you, and it's going to, you could build up resentment because of that. So like if people have said things to you, maybe you work with people and they've said some things that upset you, you got it. And you feel that you could say it without hurting them. You're not making amends to them. You're just letting them know that they've been upsetting you and, it's kind of bothering you. And then that maybe they need to make an amends to you, because people sometimes say things to us and they don't realize they're hurting us. It happens to me, and then I don't say anything, and then I build resentments, and resentments kill addicts and alcoholics. Resentments are the number one killer to an alcoholic addict. If you didn't know that, you know that now. That is the number one killer. Let's see. Keep it or leave it. Habits, people, places, and attitudes. What belongs in recovery and what doesn't. This thing's pretty cool. I need to find recovery reality check. Bust a common misconception. I don't know what that means. 1 minute of hope. Yep. The short message for someone. So if you're struggling today, reach out to someone in the rooms. That's the best advice I can give you. Reach out and before you use. If you're struggling out there, people care about you. You might not realize that, but people do care about you. That's why I say you matter. All of us matter. And if you're in recovery, even if you're not in recovery, you matter. If you're an active addict or alcoholic right now, you matter still. And if you're looking to get help, you can call the AA hotline, the NA hotline. There's hotlines for people who, need to, are having a problem now and they want to get help. There's numbers you can call. I'm going to find them out because I'm going to bring them on here. Everybody matters. If you're struggling in your recovery, man, take a step back from it. Slow it down. Maybe things are going too fast for you and you're struggling because everything's just going too quick. Slow it down. Start over. If you're struggling today, stop your day and start it over. Starting over is the best thing, especially when you're struggling. Another best thing, man, is like I said, reach out and call someone in the program. Reach out to your sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor, reach out to somebody in the program. Talk about what's going on. We struggle in recovery too. I know some guy, I remember he shared at a meeting one time, he had 32 years sober, I think, and he was struggling. And he had 32 years of sobriety. Okay, he had 32 years and he was struggling. So even at 32 years in sobriety, why? Because we're human beings. Every day isn't going to be the best day. Some days are harder than others. It doesn't mean because you're struggling, you go out and you use because of it. You have to always remember where you came from when you get here. You can't ever forget the things that you did or what happened to you when you were using, because once you forget, you think it's easy out there again. You think you can go out and have a drink, or you think you can go out and smoke a joint, or you can go out and do a pill, or you can go out and smoke crack, or I don't recommend doing that, but I'm just saying, you think you can. You can't. If you were in the program because you have a problem and you think you can go back out, you're not going to succeed. And it's going to be worse, because every time you get sober and then you go and you relapse and you go back out, it's always worse. It's actually worse. Every time I've got sober and I went back out, it was worse. Every time. This last time was the worst. I hit a rock bottom every time. And this rock bottom was worse than the other rock bottom. And that rock bottom was worse than the one before it. You get what I'm saying? It's always worse. It's never better. If I went out and started drinking right now, this would be the worst time. I would lose everything so quick. This one guy, I remember, he came back. When he shared this story, he had, I think, 3 years sober, but he said he got sober a couple times. It was worse every time. And it took him a week to lose everything. He went out and had one drink. He was an alcoholic. He went out and had one drink, and it turned into a week of drinking. And he lost everything in a week. I think he had like 7 years sober prior to him this time, because he had 3 this time. But what I'm saying is, he had like 7 years sober, and he went out, thought he could drink again, went out to have one drink, and it turned into a week of drinking, and he lost everything. And then he got sober for 3 years. He said that's all it took was a week. He built so much up, he said, in 7 years, and then he went and had a drink, and he lost all of it in a week. So he had 7 years of build up, and then 1 week it took him 7 days to ruin what he built in 7 years. I mean, think about that. 7 days to ruin what you built in 7 years. So me, I could lose everything in 2-3 days that I built in 9.5 years if I decided to go out. It'd just be worse. And I would hate myself. I would hate myself if I went out and lost what I have now. Remember, man, there's always a way to stay sober. You have to want this. You have to know that things are going, they're not going good. You have to admit defeat sometimes, because when you do, it helps you realize that there is help out there. It helps you realize that things can be better. Start over, man. If you got to start over, start over. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm trying to think if there's anything I wanted else to talk about the triggers of cravings. I mean, yeah, cravings, man. Sometimes cravings get they get bad. I've had cravings where I really wanted to use because I was having such a big craving for drugs, especially early in my sobriety. The cravings for me, I'm pretty sure got better. I'd say probably after 3 years. The first 3 years were still tough. My first year was the hardest. My second year was better, but it was still tough. And my third year was tough. After my third year, things started getting better. I started really letting recovery in. And until you let recovery in, it's going to stay hard, because you're not letting your higher power work for you. You're not letting your recovery get in you and do what it needs to do. You got to work this program, man. You have to. Recovery is a beautiful thing, and it can always be beautiful. You can keep it beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Like I said, it's over there, so I'm not going to grab it. I got a topic list of things to talk about. I'm going to try to get some more topics. I want to do some readings out of the book, or read out of the book and talk about it. I need people to comment. I'd like to go live on here and just sit here and talk live. That would be cool. I'm going to try to find some recoveries to have them on, do some interviews. I got to see who I can find that's in recovery that would come on. I want to do that. I might do an interview with my son's friend. My son's 20. The kid's name's Julio. He's really happy that I'm doing this. He's not an addict or anything. I'm going to have people on here that aren't addicts anyway. I want to talk about life. So I'm hoping to have him on next week. We were talking about maybe Wednesday having him on. I actually have microphones now. I have a little one of this one, my fine mic. I got a small table one, and then I got the microphone that came with the Vocaster one. So it's a pretty good microphone. So I figured I could set them. I got a splitter so I can use my thing. So I can record it with my phone, or my computer. I'll try to use my computer. I want to use my computer. I don't mind doing this with my phone. It's kind of cool. It's like a digital camera. But yeah, I want to definitely do interviews. Interviews would be cool. I could, get to know people. And you guys, I don't know if you like interviews. I want to get better at doing this. So I love talking about sobriety. I love sobriety. I love being sober. I love everything about sobriety. I would never give up sobriety, but I can only do it today. Remember that. I tell that all the time. Remember that. You can only be sober today. That's it. You can't be sober yesterday, and you can't be sober tomorrow. You're only in now. You can only be sober now. That's it. So that's about it for me, I think. I love you all. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please. All right. And thank you to everybody who subscribes and everybody who's supporting me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you, and like I said, if you have a burning desire, reach out. Burning desires, are what give us cravings and make us used to. Burning desires can be very deadly. Resentments are the addict killer. I'm going to try to do it. Maybe my next podcast will be about resentments. Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. I think that's going to be the next topic, resentments. Yeah, resentments kill. But if you have burning desires today, please reach out to someone in the program. Let somebody know what's going on so they can help you. Because a burning desire turns into using, and we don't want that. We want you sober. We love you. You're loved. Always remember that you're always loved. All right? And I hope you all have a good night. God loves you. We're going to end with a serenity prayer because I am going to end every episode with serenity prayer. Whether I'm doing an interview or not, it's going to be a serenity prayer. And I hope you enjoy my content, and I'm going to try to get, like I said, better at this and do more stuff. So, all right. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. I hope you all have a great night, and thank you to everybody. And I look forward into the next one. All right. Have a good night. Bye.